Episode 2. Let's continue our story from where we left off. They left there at midnight and after struggling through the desert, arrived at a small town. On the way home, Della Valle must have spent a long time turning those ancient tablets over in his hands, trying to understand what the mysterious signs on them meant. He was probably thinking to himself, who built these huge masses of stone and earth? Those gigantic structures standing alone in the middle of the desert? What are the signs on these broken pieces of clay trying to say? And if there truly was an ancient city here once, what happened for it to end up like this? I'm Fatih, and welcome to the Chrono Tales Archive podcast. In each episode, I take a closer look at a civilization that rose and then disappeared throughout history. I ask myself these questions. What did these civilizations have in common? Why did they collapse? And what must it have felt like to be someone who witnessed the end of their world? In this episode, I want to return to the very beginning of everything in human history, to one of its most innovative societies, the Sumerians. I will explain how the Sumerians built a society over thousands of years, how they invented and developed writing, mathematics, and the wheel, and how they constructed the greatest cities the world had seen at that time. When you look at southeastern Turkey, you see snow-covered limestone mountains rising thousands of meters above the flat plains below. These are the Taurus Mountains. The mountains of Turkey are so steep and high that even rain clouds can barely pass over them. Instead, they accumulate in the valleys and release heavy rainfall onto these hills. In spring and summer, as warm air thickens the clouds even more, this leads to violent storms in the mountains, their sounds echoing through the valleys. For this reason, water shaped both the nature and the beliefs of the people of this region. The name of the mountains is Taurus, which means bull in Latin, and it is very easy to understand why. At the foothills of these mountains, the remains of ancient temples decorated with bull figurines made of clay have been found. In ancient times, the people who lived here believed in the storm god Teshub. They believed that he rode on the back of a bull and traveled among the clouds in the sky, probably because the sound of thunder to their ears resembled the hoofbeats of a gigantic bull. Under these thunderous skies, the rains filled and overflowed the streams, joining with the rivers that carried the meltwater from the mountains of Armenia. They first descended as small streams, then merged into two great rivers flowing down from the mountains. These two rivers ran side by side for nearly 2,500 kilometers, feeding a vast floodplain. This region is modern-day Iraq. In Arabic, it is called Bilad al-Rafidain, meaning the land of the two rivers. Its name in ancient Greek comes from the combination of two words, mesos, middle, and potamos, river. Thus, Mesopotamia means the land between the rivers. These two great rivers are the Tigris and the Euphrates. For thousands of years, they brought life to the low plains of Iraq. But the source of this life was the waters that emerged from the caves, rocks, and underground springs of southeastern Turkey. Almost all rocks are made of a combination of two minerals called quartz and feldspar. Quartz is a shiny crystal composed of oxygen and silicon. Feldspar is a more complex silicate mineral. These two minerals make up more than 65% of Earth's crust. As rivers flow down from the mountains, rocks break down into small stones and sand, but quartz and feldspar do not dissolve in water. Therefore, these tiny crystals travel within the rivers like a shimmering fine cloud. This is called alluvium or silt. Sometimes it is poetically referred to as rock flour. It is smaller than sand, but its impact is immense. Soil rich in silt holds water better and allows more air to reach plant roots. For this reason, silty soil is like a paradise for plants. Since the Tigris and Euphrates deposit enormous amounts of silt every year, They transform the normally barren desert soils into extraordinarily fertile land. These tiny particles enabled agriculture and human life to flourish in this region. But despite this fertile soil, the plains of southern Iraq were extremely difficult to live in. In reality, it is one of the last places you would expect the first civilizations to appear. The climate is both extremely hot and very dry. In summer, temperatures can exceed 52 degrees. Rain is almost non-existent. Winds dry the soil even more. Water and minerals carried by the rivers and floodwaters bring life to the soil, but the timing of the floods is unpredictable. While the Nile's floods were regular, whether the Tigris and Euphrates would overflow depended entirely on rainfall in the mountains, which varied from year to year. Some years were dry, while others saw destructive floods. In winter, the whole plain became covered in mud. Moreover, southern Iraq lacked natural resources. No rocks, no minerals, no stone, only clay and silt. For this reason, early humans arrived late to this region. Very ancient humans, such as Homo erectus, tried to live in the upper reaches of the rivers. Archaeologists have found hand tools resembling stone axes, dating back 500,000 years. But the river plains of southern Iraq were not suitable for hunter-gatherers. However, around 13,000 years ago, things began to change. Nomadic hunter-gatherers began building houses and settling down. They noticed something interesting. When they threw the seeds of the fruits and plants they ate onto the ground, after some time the same plants grew there on their own. This gave them an idea. If they buried seeds in the soil, watered them, and tended to them, they could grow more of the same plant. Thus, the world's first farmers emerged. These new farmers, once they found a good place to cultivate, did not want to leave. They built houses, began storing food for winter. They formed larger communities to farm together and protect their harvest. They learned to make pottery from clay, but they still relied on rain in the mountainous regions. Beginning around 6,500 BCE, these settlements expanded. For centuries, people followed the river southward and eventually reached the harsh plains of southern Iraq. We do not know who these people were, what language they spoke, or what they called themselves. We simply call this period the Ubaid period. After Ubaid, the site where the earliest finds were discovered. As the Ubaid people moved along the river, they discovered other things. They saw date palms growing. They realized these trees produced fruit that was both high in calories and delicious. They learned to cultivate dates. They also discovered that in the shade of date palms, more delicate plants could grow. Their most critical discovery was this: plants did not have to grow only along riverbanks. With some effort, they could dig canals to bring river water to the land. If a canal was long enough, agriculture could be done almost anywhere. Over time, the people living in this region became highly skilled at digging irrigation channels. Using this method, the soil became extremely fertile. They grew wheat, millet, sesame. Under the shade of date palms, they cultivated pomegranate, grapes, figs, and they produced lentils, chickpeas, garlic, leeks, cucumbers, and many more. But there was another notable green area in southern Iraq, the marshlands created by the Tigris and Euphrates. Here, reeds grew meters tall. The region was full of water buffalo, wild boar, and countless bird species. The people living here built houses out of reeds. They bound reeds tightly together to form thick beams and constructed large and beautiful houses made entirely of reeds. The great cities of Sumer rose just north of these marshlands. Mesopotamia was home not only to two great rivers, but also to two great peoples, the Sumerians and the Akkadians. These two peoples became so intertwined throughout history that it is impossible to talk about one without the other. Although we know more about the Akkadians, the Sumerians remain shrouded in mystery. The Akkadians spoke a language belonging to the Semitic family. This family would later include languages such as Aramaic, Hebrew, and Arabic. It was a language native to the region and somewhat similar to surrounding languages. But the Sumerian language was completely different. It was a language isolate. It resembled no other language in the world. For this reason, when scholars first discovered the earliest Sumerian stone inscriptions, they did not even believe it was a real language. They thought this must be a secret code only they understood. Therefore, some researchers proposed that the Sumerians might have come from elsewhere, because their language was entirely unrelated to the region. There are even theories suggesting that the Sumerians arrived in southern Iraq by sea. A clue supporting this idea comes from a Babylonian legend recorded by the Roman historian Flavius Josephus in the 1st century CE. In this legend, a half-human, half-fish being named Oannes emerges from the sea and teaches the people of Mesopotamia writing, agriculture, building, laws, and technical knowledge. After giving all this knowledge, Oannes returns to the sea and is never seen again. This story might represent a mythological memory of the idea that the Sumerians came from distant lands. Some historians have even suggested that the Sumerians came from as far away as India. Another clue about the origins of the Sumerians appears in the Great Flood myth. The Sumerians wrote that their ancestors had witnessed a massive flood that destroyed the world. This flood story later passed to Babylon, then to the Torah, and is probably the oldest continuously told story in the world. This story today is believed by Muslims. Many historians have investigated whether there was a real event behind this flood story. World history is full of great floods. When the last ice age ended around 9000 BCE, temperatures rose, glaciers melted, and sea levels rose by about 125 meters. This rise caused many regions to be submerged. The land bridge connecting Russia and Alaska disappeared, and England became an island. The Middle East also experienced significant flooding. During the Ice Age, the Tigris and Euphrates flowed 500 kilometers further south than they do today, joining in a valley between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Some researchers believe that Neolithic people may have lived in this fertile valley. But as sea levels rose, these lower regions gradually flooded. Moreover, this process continued uninterrupted for thousands of years. The shoreline advanced by about 125 meters each year. If people were living in this region, this event must have been a complete catastrophe for them. Rising seas over centuries would have pushed them northward, swallowing forests and villages, forcing them to relocate again and again. It is believed that these people eventually gathered around 6000 BCE, at the point where the sea finally stopped advancing and formed a new culture. This is precisely when the Sumerian civilization emerged. According to another theory, Semitic farmers moving south along the rivers might have encountered another people coming from the south speaking a unique language and telling stories of a great flood. The Oannes legend may represent a memory of these people having come from the sea. Perhaps the Sumerians did not arrive by boat, but on foot from a land that is now submerged under the sea. Another Sumerian myth, the creation story of Enki and Ninhursag, tells that the first humans were created in a place called Dilmun. People believe Dilmun is modern-day Bahrain, an island in the middle of the Persian Gulf, which was once a fertile river valley. Of course, we have no definitive evidence. These are still only theories. But when trying to understand such ancient times, we must remember that history is not made of clear-cut facts, but of investigation and debate. Sometimes it is like mapping another planet's surface or descending into the depths of the ocean. You only have small clues and must guess the rest. We may never know for certain where the Sumerians came from, but we do know many things about them. The Sumerians called themselves. The Akkadians used a name in their own language that meant the same thing. From Sumerian reliefs, we can even see their hairstyles, curly on top, short on the sides. Ordinary people wore skirts made of sheepskin. The wealthy wore colorful wool garments with tassels and elaborate decorations. Both men and women, especially those who were wealthy, wore jewelry made of copper and sometimes gold anklets, bracelets, necklaces, earrings. Interestingly, we also know quite a lot about Sumerian music. They even recorded their music on clay tablets. They wrote down how to tune instruments. Today, we are able to hear recreations of the music that people in Eridu, Ur, and Uruk listened to. The Semitic Akkadian people and the Sumerians lived side by side for centuries. Like the two rivers, they lived parallel but intertwined lives. They shared both their achievements and their mistakes. They built growing cities together, and in the end, their destinies remained bound together. Our story does not end here. For now, goodbye.